I'm at Embry Riddle University this afternoon, and I have Nancy Snyder with me, and we're going to have an extended interview. We've already had a pretty good chat. And thanks for coming in, Nancy.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to be here.
I missed her last year when the air races started in Buchanan Field in California. And so I tailed her all the way to the university here and see if I can get a hold. In here, where did you grow up, Nancy?
I'm originally from West Palm Beach, Florida. Then my mom worked for United as a flight attendant, so for United. And then, unfortunately, after 9/11, the United base closed. The Miami base closed down in about 2001 or so. And that's when we moved out to California, and I lived in San Mateo, California for about 10 months. My mom was based out of San Francisco, and then I lived out in Laguna Beach, California for 4 years, and my mom was based out of LAX. So, kind of an airline brat, I guess.
A little bit.
So yeah, that's pretty much how I was moving around a little bit because the bases kept changing.
Sure. Some fabulous places to live. Any of those favorites?
I would say Florida's always home. I'm glad to be back. I love the beach here. It's a little warmer than California. Yeah. A little cold. I still feel like you're doing the polar bear plunge during the summer in California, but definitely beautiful over there. But it was great being in Florida and great being in Laguna Beach, and I met great people. I just took my high school friends flying up on Sunday for the first time. Wow. So they're like, "Don't kill me." It's like, "I promise, we're good. Like, I'm an instructor now." So yeah, they definitely enjoyed it.
And where did you spend high school then? Out of those three places, where you?
Laguna Beach.
This was high school. When was your first airplane ride? Just an airplane now, not flying it yourself. Just in the airplane for the first time.
Oh, probably when I was 6 months old.
Your mom was a flight attendant.
Yeah. The little story behind that. So my mom was based out of Miami, and we were living in West Palm, or Wellington, Florida back in the time. And she always used to dress me up in these frilly dresses with the white gloves and the frilly socks, and my hair was curled, and I just prancing down the terminals of Miami International Airport. And I always would, we always had to dress up back in the day to get first class if you go standby. So we always dressed up every time we went flying. It was a big ordeal. My mom would always come back if she was working a trip. Always give me cookies. I was always happy when I was little. There was one time I had a pink cowboy, pink cowboy or cowgirl dress and pink cowgirl boots.
Wow.
With a pink cowgirl hat, and I went up and down the aisles and asked for people's headsets.
She had you working.
She had me working, yes, like when I was 5. I can send you those pictures later if you want.
Yes. I need a copy of that.
But yeah, that was the first airplane, I guess, ride, just when I was little. But my first airplane experience was when I was 14, and I flew out of John Wayne with Sunrise Aviation. And I flew a single-engine Diamond, and it was awesome. Going up and down the El Toro practice area and seeing the beautiful scenery of the mountains and everything, and just the coastline of California was just so cool. So I was hooked since I was 14 being a pilot, definitely.
14 was, but this John Wayne experience was at 16, did you say?
No, I was 14.
It was at 14, okay. Mm-hmm. And how did that come about?
I just showed interest that I wanted to try flying. My mom was in the industry, and so I figured I might as well give it a shot. And absolutely loved it at 14. And then that was my first airplane experience, me flying. And then I actually came to Embry Riddle when I was 16 and did the solo program with the program here that Pam Peer does, and I soloed when I was 16 after 2.5 weeks of not flying an airplane, so it was very cool.
Tell me that again. After you flew but didn't fly your solo for 2 weeks?
So I did my first ride when I was 14, then it flies since then, and then when you come to the program, it's 2.5 weeks, and then in 2.5 weeks you solo an airplane by yourself. That's the goal of the camp. Okay. So it was very cool. Yeah. I got to solo, And my solo experience, my instructor gave me the wrong frequency to tower. So I was holding short at the runway for a good 10 minutes trying to call up tower.
And the wrong frequency.
And I contacted ground and then got the right frequency. Then finally I took off and I was a happy camper. But it's really weird when you first solo and there's no instructor next to you and it's like, I'm on my own. What is this? But it was very cool. I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, the summer program here, I went back in 2007.
And how did you find out about the program?
Just some of my mother's colleagues were talking about it, and also we just Googled flying camps and tried to find it that way.
Okay. Did you do any flying between that and when you ended up going to college?
Yeah, so that was my solo, and then within a year and a half, it was probably 1 or 2 flights just to keep me in it. Just money was tight.
Sure.
And then finally, when I was in 2009, I was 18, and I went to American Flyers down in Pompano Beach, Florida. And after not flying for about a year and a half, I got my private pilot's license in 3 weeks.
What?
Yes, 3 weeks I got my license. It was 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop flying, cramming, getting it done. So in 3 weeks, got the license done. And then I went off to cheer camp.
Off to where?
Cheer camp. I was a cheerleader for Embry Riddle for 3 years. So I was joining the cheerleading team that year as well as a freshman. And then I started my instrument rating my freshman year.
3 weeks, though.
Yeah.
You must have been studying constantly.
Yeah, I was fried. My head was just like fire hose of information. But yeah, my check ride, it was in-house, and the oral came first, and I passed the oral. I was like, okay. And then went up to do the flight, and the flight went smoothly, thankfully, and I was tempted, after I landed, and then I knew that I was done, I was tempted to ask Tower for progressive taxi, just not to mess up the taxi. But I was like, no, I guess I can do it. Literally, it was really easy taxi instructions, but when I finally shut down the engine, I was like, woohoo! So it's finally done. Exactly. Check rides are always nerve-wracking.
They are, aren't they?
Yes.
Somehow it always ends up being that way.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. How did you then come about deciding on Embry Riddle? Was it partially because of that solo program?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Okay.
Just being around other kids my age, being a teen, like at 16, everyone's either talking about the latest fashion or where you're going to go on Friday night to hang out, but when you finally were hanging around kids your age that were interested in aviation, it was very eye-opening. And it was really cool because everyone can nerd out and not be judged. I was like, oh my god, airplane! It was a great experience, and definitely I think with that program it definitely helped me solidify my decision to come to Embry Riddle. Yeah, I applied to other universities. I applied to UND, I applied to Lynn University, Vaughn College of Aeronautics. I got into all of them, yay.
Sure.
But I really wanted to go to Embry Riddle since I know it was, very, fairly well known for its training and its name and just the overall reputation into the industry as well. So
it certainly has that.
It does, definitely.
Yeah, I would say.
I've gotten a lot of opportunities, definitely, that helped me out building myself as a pilot and just as a person. So
sure.
Just with the air race, and then I was also part of the Women's Ambassadors program, trying to get more women involved in STEM type jobs and such. So we're trying to recruit more girls at Embry Riddle since we have such a low percentage right now, because not a lot of girls, I guess, are thinking that they can be an engineer or a mathematician or an engineer or something like that. So what we did was, as the Women's Ambassadors program, we contacted the potential females that were willing to come to Embry Riddle and try to be like their big sisters, help them out with the process, help them out with if they need any information on dorms or any food, stuff like that. Sure. The ins and outs of campus, and then when they came to preview day, then we would meet them and try to show them around campus. So definitely was an awesome time, and also really fun to see that the girls that you were talking to for months, trying to help them out make the right decision, and then ultimately having them come to Riddle. It was pretty cool.
What are your career goals as a pilot?
Well, airline pilot. I would love to work for an airline, yes. Yeah. I'm a people person, so I definitely like to make people feel comfortable in flying, and it's always fun to think that your office changes every day. Like, I see a new view every day, I work with somebody new every day, you know, make great relationships, say hello to the passengers. You know, like probably at 6 in the morning flight, no one's probably going to be awake, but I'll have my coffee in hand and be like, hello, good morning, welcome aboard. I usually do that in the North Practice area when we're flying around too. So when we're making radio calls, I'm like, good morning, North Practice area. So you gotta make people feel uplifted. That's the biggest thing. I would like to work for United one day.
Would you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I wonder why.
I did an internship with them back in 2013.
Okay.
And I worked at Willis Tower with the flight technology department. So
Willis Tower, I'm not familiar with that.
In Chicago. So it used to be Sears Tower, but now they call it Willis Tower.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So downtown Chicago, and flight information technology. I worked in that department with helping with electronic flight bags, so trying to get pilots acquainted with the iPad and trying to help them understand how to use it with the jump charts and stuff, and make sure that everything was up to date with that. And I got to do a jump seat experience in an A320. That was cool. And I got to see the river visual for Reagan, so that was a lot.
Oh, that's fun to fly.
I know.
That's the best.
It was a lot of fun. I definitely will say that. Kid in a candy store, like smile ear to ear, like I was good. That pretty much set that I was in the right career and that I was doing the right thing. So it's like woohoo.
So the jump seat in the 320 is right behind the captain?
Yeah, so
you were able to see the monuments and everything.
Yeah, so when the A320, when you jump seat in A320, you have the jump seats to the side, and then when you close the door, it slides in the middle, so you're right between the middle of the captain and the co-pilot.
Okay. Yeah,
so it was a lot of fun. I'll have to send you some pictures of that too, if you like.
Yeah, that'd be, would you?
Yeah. But definitely the internships are very helpful. Definitely would recommend to any college senior, junior, freshman, sophomore, it doesn't really matter. Just try to get an internship, try to understand like what the industry is doing, and definitely help you get mentors that way. Very helpful. So. What
have they told you, if anything, about how you should progress from when you leave Embry Riddle to where you should go, and how soon that they'd be looking at you seriously?
Yeah. Well, right now the airlines, like the majors, are starting to drop their minimums a little bit, so they only really need 1,000 turbine. So honestly, the hop from regional to major the window is actually it's not as big. So. I'm hoping to be in a major before I'm 30, so.
Well, you should do that. 1,000 turbine.
Yeah, for the majors. And then the restricted ATP for the regionals.
Right.
Just on higher date. That's all it's about, pretty much. So the sooner you get hired, that's how your seniority number sticks with you for the rest of your career.
Right. Okay. So you understand it perfectly.
Yeah. I think the biggest help, honestly, to understand how the industry, how it's like, is honestly during my internship. Just being immersed into it definitely helped.
How many months was that?
It was 4 months.
4 months. Wow, that is a good period of time. And you lived right there in Chicago.
I did. So.
How did that work out? Did the internship provide that, or
no?
You had to do that.
I had to do that. Luckily, my boyfriend is from Chicago, so I lived with his mother for 4 months.
Perfect.
So I took over his room and made my own.
Oh.
So it was easy commute. I only had to do 15 minutes to drive to the train station, and I took an hour express train into the city every day. The main thing with the majors I think that they're looking for is, I guess it's kind of called like the conversation test. You know, can I sit with you in a cockpit for 5 hours and have a good, you know, and we can actually have a conversation versus I don't want to fly the robot and you're just going to do the flows. You're just going to sit there and read a newspaper. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's all about that. It's all about if the person clicks with somebody, like if you have a good crew is someone that can laugh it off and work together and have a good atmosphere. But if you have an atmosphere and it's like, can I touch the button? Okay, don't cut my head off. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You don't want to be walking in eggshells up there, right?
Exactly.
So that's the biggest thing, is make sure that they're personable, they can get along with multiple types of personalities. It's all about the big picture, I think. Because at that point, at a major, you know how to fly an airplane. You know what I mean? They assume you know how to fly an airplane. You've gotten this far, so the flying skills, well, no, but they care about it, but they don't care as much as the whole package of the personality.
Sure.
So
Yeah, that's well said. If you had a high school student that was interested in becoming a pilot, what kind of advice would you give them?
The biggest thing I know that drives most high school students, or just anyone in general, away from aviation is just the cost. It's a
Yes.
lot of money.
Yes.
So the biggest thing I would say is, you know, don't let the cost scare you away. I mean, there's so many scholarships out there. Like, you just have to take the time to write all the essays. That's the thing. But if you're determined enough to make it happen, definitely can make it work. Make a GoFundMe account. Try to look for different scholarship opportunities. Try to apply for FAFSA. You know, just get the first thing though is if you're interested in being a pilot as a high schooler, the first thing is go up in an airplane, see if you actually like it. It's a discovery flight only costs maybe $200 to $300 at most, and that's probably the most valuable money that you can spend to make sure you're going into a career that you like, versus you never going in an airplane before, and then you got all these loans out for college, and then the first flight you go into, and it's like, I don't like this. So
Right.
to save time and money for yourself, definitely recommend just go up on a discovery flight and see if you actually like flying in general. And if you know that you're hooked day one, then by all means, tailwinds, blue skies, go. But if you get sick the first flight and you're like, I'm not too sure about this, then maybe look for a different career path in aviation still. There's air traffic controllers, there's dispatchers,
Sure.
different avenues for sure. But definitely recommend go fly first, see if you like it. I would highly recommend stick with government loans. Try to
Okay.
just stay away from the private loans,
Okay.
because the government's going to work with you a little bit more. If you get Sally Mae has a due date and she wants her money that day.
Uh-huh.
Versus if you do the government loans, I'm on an income-based repayment plan right now. So I didn't make so much last year, so I don't have to pay anything back right now.
Okay. So it's income based
Yeah, you can do
for your payments.
exactly. You can do different types of payment options, but it's if you choose income-based repayment plan, it's income-based, so they're not gonna drain you dry and you can't eat. I mean, I don't mind eating ramen, but I'd rather not eat ramen for the rest of my life. So it's very helpful with that, with the federal loans. Definitely recommend the federal loans.
Okay. So now what we need to do with whatever time we have left is we need to talk about the ARC race.
Yeah,
And,
definitely.
I missed you last year, and I'm really sorry. I probably saw you guys there. Obviously, if you looked at the collage,
I did,
filmed your
yeah.
airplane.
I saw that, so that was awesome.
So I snuck in there and got some pictures of it, but I didn't get a chance to talk to you. So could you tell me a little bit about last year's race and some of the things that happened during that race? Like, for example, tell me first of all, you left here and what your route was like, how to get out there.
Yeah, so the race actually started in California, and we're in Florida, so it was definitely a trek to get out there. we went, it was, what was it? The first night, like I was telling you before, we diverted to Livingston, Tennessee. And Tennessee's gorgeous, definitely with the hills and everything. And like I was telling you before, we landed in Livingston, and there were thunderstorms all around us, and we were trying to divert really, really quick because it was like, okay, we need to get on the ground. So it was either Chattanooga or no, I'm bad. It wasn't Chattanooga. It was Nashville International, which I don't think we could have done in a Cessna. So then we diverted a little tinier landing strip. But really cute little town. We had our 1960s Volkswagen van that we drove around, and that was an interesting time within itself. The next day we made it to, I believe, Ohio, I want to say. Made it to around the Ohio area, and then we eventually made it to Rawlings.
Wyoming?
Yeah, Wyoming.
Yeah.
And then I remember as we kept going more west, I'm a native Floridian, so I'm used to flatlands. Was not used to mountains that, started coming out of the ground. So if you're cruising at 5,000 feet in Florida, you know you're at 5,000 feet above the ground. But as you keep going west, the land starts slowly, gradually coming up towards you. So when you look down towards the ground, it's like, oh, that looks kind of close. So you slowly keep gradually climbing to make sure you're actually 5,000 EGL, not MSL. I remember the first time we were hitting the first pass of the Rockies, and we were about, I will say, 10,000 feet. And I'm looking over to Val, and I'm like, are we going to make it? She's like, yeah, we'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So as we keep getting closer and closer, it's like, oh, okay, you start seeing that clearance when you're finally getting closer to it. But when you're so far away, it looks like right at eye level, and it's like, this looks sketchy. But definitely was really cool.
Did you go over Rock Springs then? Or Rollins? Did you go to Rock Springs? Did you go like over Logan to the north, or over Salt Lake, or how did you come
Salt
across
Lake.
Came across Salt
We
Lake?
actually flew over Salt Lake.
Okay.
It was very cool.
Saw the great Salt Lake for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I was like, wow, there's a lot of salt beds. I'm like, okay, that's what Salt Lake looks like. But yeah, we were cruising along over the Rockies, and I was surprised there was still snow in June. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, okay. Val and I only packed a pair of yoga pants and a little tiny jacket. And during the race, when we got to Pinedale, Wyoming, that morning it was like 30 degrees. Everything was wet because it, I guess, just rained that night. So I'm pre-flighting. I'm soaked head to toe with dew all over me because of the plane. I'm pre-flighting, and it's like, put the heat on. I'm so cold. But definitely was a great experience. We tried doing a visual of the Golden Gate when we finally got to Concord.
Did you?
We tried, but we really weren't sure what corridor was supposed to be because they told us there was a TFR. We're like, we'll just land. We're not going to chance that. We already got all the way over here. So we landed once we got to Concord, and then we spent the whole day in San Francisco, rode all the trolleys. We actually walked to the Golden Gate. It was interesting.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I have videos as well if you want me to send those to you.
Yes.
But yeah, the Golden Gate was actually quite windy.
Typical.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun.
Now this really, in your flying career, is this the first time you were out, except for Dothan, was this the first time you were out of Florida?
Yeah, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an experience, huh?
It was going to FPOs and understanding how they work, and I did my first self-service fuel in where was it? It was in Wyoming, and they had an alpaca farm right next to the airport. We're taxiing along, and I look at Val, I'm like, are those llamas? She's like, no, they're alpacas. I'm like, oh. So yeah, we taxied by some alpacas on our way to Wyoming. But yeah, being at a higher altitude too, we actually used the tow bar to try to get the airplane to the self-serving station. I was huffing and puffing like an 8-year-old woman because of the higher altitude.
That's right.
But yeah, it definitely was an experience. I definitely enjoyed it.
Those are wonderful anecdotes.
Yeah.
And I know you could go on for probably hours.
Yes.
It's a, and I want you to, but because they're so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think that you are a much better pilot because of these experiences that you had in this race?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was pushed to my limits definitely during the race, and you know, pushed to limits that I'm glad I was pushed to, because it showed me that I could handle different situations and fly different circumstances. Like I said, I'm glad the university gives us this opportunity to apply and give us the opportunity to fly and, you know, have at it. But definitely recommend, you know, if the other females out there can definitely apply to get to the race, I definitely recommend it. You make great relationships. You meet the older ladies that have done it for like 20 years. They have so much experience. Just listening to their stories it's awesome. Just from past years of racing and just the legacy that's been created since the 1920s. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So, yeah.
And here at the college, then, how do they determine
who races?
Yeah.
They have interview process from, I believe, October to November, and you apply, and then you go through different rounds of interviews, and they try to make sure that you're the right fit of being a great ambassador for the university and have a certain flying skill, and you meet the criteria for the Air Race Classic, and you make a good team.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you have 2 airplanes in it this year, I think Debbie told me.
We do.
Yeah,
First time.
First time.
2 teams. Just really excited.
Yeah.
2 teams this year. And looking forward to it. We have my partner's Emmy Dillon, and she's part of the flight team. And then the other team consists of 2 Embry Riddle instructors. So we have Sarah Wendt and Abby Passmore. So we have a pretty good field of good ladies on this team, and I have no doubt in my mind we'll do very well this year. So
I'm sure you will. You've done very well for years and years, right? You have some pressure on you to perform.
Just a little, but we got it.
So there's the 4 of you now. Do you have any sub members that are following you along and watching how you're doing all your preparations, so that they're more prepared for next year? So
actually, no.
No minor league then.
No minor league. No, it's pretty much whoever does it. Say, for instance, I did it last year. So it's usually they try to keep at least one person year after year just to be a mentor and also kind of train the next person year after year.
Okay.
So it's just a constant it's a constant cycle.
Sure.
Every year.
So that one person, this year being you, keeps that continuity in there.
Exactly.
So that experience can come back.
Exactly.
Does Sarah, Abby, and Emmy, do they all know pretty much what you experienced last year and the anecdotes that you've told me and dozens of other ones? So have you talked to them about this?
Yes, I have. We try to keep each other in the loop on everything. We have a group me, a group me account, always talking. We're probably going to meet up several times before the race too, just to have some bonding.
Sure.
So we all can bond together. It's all about teamwork, honestly, for the air race. So as long as you and your partner get along, you have a great time. It's also, yes, it's a race, but you also have to remember to have fun. I mean, come on, who else can fly a Cessna around the country and have a grand old time during the summer? So definitely memories to bond over as well.
I've got your route out, and of course the route back had one snag, wasn't it, at Elko, where some decisions had to be made?
Definitely. Elko, Nevada.
Elko, Nevada, yes.
Yeah, we're actually, Val and I stopped. We were actually planning on staying the night. We were eating hamburgers, and I was drinking Sprite. I don't know why I remember that, but
Wow.
I was drinking Sprite and eating hamburger, talking to some other racers. And then we decided to go for it, try to get out of there as quick as possible at that point, just
The
because...
next morning?
No,
Still that day?
That day. We had about, 3 hours to play with before sunset. So we decided to get out of Elko as fast as we could because we know bad weather was coming. And thankfully we did manage to get out of Elko before we got snowed in. I think that decision definitely helped us continue the race and not get stuck for those 3 days like the other collegiate teams that got stuck.
And one of the big reasons for making that decision was the support you were getting from the weather department.
Yes,
here, right?
yes. Debbie Sham, our weather lady, she's definitely our eyes and our ears with weather and trying to keep us posted at all times, letting us know if there's any snags we might run into or any altitudes we might need to go to or any storms or any systems we have to watch out for. So definitely a huge help to have her on board.
Yeah, sounds like it probably is. You said you had 3 hours left and you were in Elko. That day you came all the way from Buchanan to Elko.
Yeah.
Which meant that your first leg, I believe, was up into Oregon someplace.
Yep, Butte Valley.
Butte Valley.
Butte Valley. Butte Valley was a flyby, and then we stopped for gas, and then we went to Elko. And then after that, we pushed to Pinedale, Wyoming.
That was a long day then.
It was.
To call it 8 o'clock and set at night, that's a good 12-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was there any other part during the race that was as crucial in making a decision as that was?
That was honestly the leg that Val and I both hated, just because it was just long. It was like, come on. But we went to Pinedale, Scottsbluff, Norfolk, and then, the last flyby was kind of hard to find. The last flyby was, I believe, in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And, in Pennsylvania, you have your rolling hills because it's kind of like, that's just the terrain out there. And you have to find this airport in the rolling hills. And you're trying to get down to your altitude to do the flyby correctly. And as you get closer and closer, the hills are covering up the airport. So it's hard to find the flyby. So we're just trying to use our GPS to help us find the center line. It's like, I think that's it. Just turn right. And it's like, okay. So then trying to do the flyby real quick, and thankfully we did find the last flyby, but we're just like, we're not missing this flyby because we want to finish the race. But the biggest thing is just terrain. The hillier the terrain, the harder to find the airport, especially for flybys.
So explain what a flyby is actually.
A flyby is you're about 200 to 300 feet above the ground, and you're full throttle. And you're trying to keep straight and level as possible, and you pass a timing line over the runway, and you have timers that are timing you, you have a timer. So for instance, when you have your point A airport, you take off, and then you pass the timing line, and they start the clock.
Okay.
And then you have your point B airport, and when you pass the timing line, they stop the clock. So that's why it's very crucial to try to go as fast as possible over that timing line, just to try to get as fast as speed. But yeah, you're full throttle, and it's bumpy, especially when it's during the afternoon. So you're trying to hold altitude as much as you can and trying to make sure the RPM's not going crazy. But yeah, you go very fast, just very low over the ground. That's pretty much in a nutshell.
And the timing lines are always like across a runway?
Depends. You have to kind of look for a tent. They just like a random tent they put up, and then they have the volunteers sitting at the tent, and then you try to have your own stop clock in the airplane. Make sure you have your own time too, and sometimes you're off a little bit, sometimes you're not. It's just kind of like a guessing game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get charts before the race, and the charts show us the timing lines, where the timing lines are going to be at each airport.
Oh, okay.
So that's how you can kind of judge where the timing line's going to be.
When wouldn't they be at a runway? Would it like be over a taxiway or something like that?
They would be at like over the runway, but it'll be like on the side or like this far down the runway or this far down the runway. It's not always at a specific point on the runway.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Are these tower controlled runways, the airports?
No, they're all
Generally not.
Yep.
Probably for a reason.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
It
planes
gets
could be coming through
congested.
at the same time, right? What about the traffic patterns that are going on?
Luckily, we didn't really have too much problem with that because all these airports are very desolate.
I see. Okay, so that helps.
Yeah.
Couldn't be busy because I mean.
Oh God, no! When you have 50 airplanes trying to do flybys, it's like it gets a little hectic. That's for sure.
No, I would imagine that maybe at Klamath, a lot of airplanes might have been at the timing line at the same time, but after that, does it get kind of strung out
It
during the course of the
does.
race?
It does. It does get very strung out, depending on if you have your faster airplanes. So, for instance, like if you're number one, doesn't mean you're always going to be lead the pack because you might have 5 airplanes that are faster than you.
Oh,
So they could pass you, and it does start getting very spread out. The first leg is always the most cramped because everyone's still in the same area. But then some people stay at the first stop, some people stay longer, some people do a flyby to continue. So it does get very spread out very fast.
I see. But there is a time frame that you have to complete the race, right?
Yes, there is. It is 4 days.
4 days.
4
okay.
days.
4 days. What other kind of restrictions are there on
The race?
As I recall, you had some sort of a handicap system on speed, and
Yeah.
right? Explain that to me.
So your handicap, you go up with a handicapper with the Air Race Classic, and you do a certain pattern. It's kind of a box pattern at the RPM that you're going to be flying at, and they prefer you be full throttle. So usually all our races are preferably full throttle. So at race speed, so you pretty much fly a square pattern at race speed, and they take those 4 different legs and then they just kind of average them, and they see what your speed was at that point, and they handicap you at that point. I believe you have to be at least 6,000 feet density altitude, so everyone's at different places in the country, right? But everyone wants to make sure they're the same density altitude, so it's fair.
Right.
So that's how they do the handicap.
How'd you do on your handicap last year?
Pretty good.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you did, because you were the number 1 college team, right?
Yeah, we were.
For how many years in a row?
Third year.
Boy,
So
you got pressure on you this year, Nancy. Girl.
We're defending our title, and then we got 2nd overall last year. So.
And this year the race is starting where? Where am I going to have to come for the start of this race?
It is Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh, Virginia.
Yeah.
Fredericksburg. I know where that is. And the date on that? You know offhand?
June 22nd.
Okay.
And the award ceremony is the 27th in Fairhope, Alabama.
Fairhope.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that'd be... I mean, it was fun being at the start last year.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of excitement and anticipation and wondering what's going to happen. But at the award ceremony at the end there, I imagine that's pretty exciting too.
Yeah,
'Cause you
it
don't know
was.
anything until that night, right?
We have no idea. Like, Val and I were shaking in our boots. Like, we had no idea how we did. It was just it was a tough race. It was tough. Like, just the weather and the terrain and just trying to push as much as you can just to finish. Val and I were just happy just to finish the race. So we were like, okay, we're done, yay. But it was honestly a complete shock how well we did.
Really?
We had no idea, honestly. We were just holding each other's hands as they're calling all the names, and we're like, wait, we don't hear our name. Okay, they called third, okay. So it's like down to the last 2, and it was crazy. I almost cried because I was just like, I had no idea. But yeah, it was a great experience, and I definitely am excited to do it again. So.
Yeah, you're a fortunate young lady. So this would be a wrap. So Nancy, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I plan on being able to talk to you